Why did Paul George decide to stay in Oklahoma City? I think it surprised a lot of people who thought for sure he was going to the Lakers.
Well, the most interesting part for me with Paul George is that when OKC traded for him, they didn't necessarily talk to Paul George. They didn't talk to his camp. They didn't talk to Aaron Mitch's agent. They bet on their culture and the fact that they could essentially recruit him every day in their building. And that's what they did. So every day they recruited him. They built the culture because he wanted to be a Laker. He's from L.A.
Sure.
Was not recruited by the big schools. Goes to Fresno State. But bottom line is now they have him in their door every day, and that made a big difference. He was able to build a rapport with Russell Westbrook. And throughout this kind of working out every day, they started to say, okay, this could work. And that's what happened. And to me, it was a surprise because I think the biggest thought process was they're going to get PG, the Lakers are, then they're going to get LeBron, then they're going to contend. Didn't happen like that.
So in your eyes, what did this say about Russ? Because there was a narrative around Russ once Kevin Durant left. That decision became as much about Russ as it was about KD to a lot of people. That this was because KD doesn't want to play with him. In fact, nobody wants to play with Russ. Look at Oladipo. He goes to Indiana, and he flourishes without Russ. What did it say to you about Russ and what a guy like Paul George thinks of him and thinks of playing with him?
There is a perception around the league with Russell that you can't win with him. You can't play with him among certain players. For Paul George, a legitimate top 15 at worst NBA player, to say, I want to be with Russell Westbrook in the prime of my career to try to win a championship, that said a lot to me. It also said a lot about Oklahoma City as a franchise, the fan base, the Thunder, Sam Presti, buying into everything. But I think it helped Russell Westbrook in the sense that I don't know if every superstar would have chosen to stay, but for Paul George to stay, it's a big deal.
There's a number of different ways to win in the NBA. Typically, it's either on the court, either you're winning championships or your team's in contention, which brings great value to your fan base and also great value to the franchise as a whole. There's another thing, how you manage the salary cap, how many fans you have, how many boxes you have. Are you winning at the box office as far as the owner going to win? You mentioned, Jenna, $300 million. I mean, how much did he pay for the franchise? Now,
300, yes.
Regardless, with having Paul George now, is there a winning formula for them as a business?
As a business?
As a business. I know they're not going to win championships with these two, all right? So that right there is not going to happen. They're not going to be able to win at the box office because now the exorbitant salaries and the luxury tax that they're going to pay, is it really worth it?
To me, the first thing you have to do is try and buy out Carmelo Anthony before you do anything else. Because if you buy him out and you stretch the vet minimum, which is $2.4 million, you save $116 million in luxury tax. To answer your question, long-winded, no, it's not worth it.
Okay.
Because they're not going to contend. Because in the second round, it's either Houston or Golden State. And they're not better than those teams.
But here's the thing. Here's the pushback I'll give you on that. And the point on Carmelo is very important. People might say, is Carmelo making $116 million? The luxury tax is complicated. At some point, you pay 3 or 4 cents on or 3 or 4x, whatever you're
on the dollar.
Over the cap. So just trust us on this, that you could save over $100 million stretching him. They have the other player they could potentially stretch. Is it Abrinas? There's Kyle Singler, I think it is. Whomever it is. There's other ways they can bring that luxury tax payment down. But the reason I reject the idea flatly that this team can't contend is they can't contend this year. But Russ is signed long-term and Paul George is signed long-term. And if we're talking about, is Klay Thompson going to want to go to Golden State or to the Lakers? Is KD going to want to say I'm going to go do this on my own? If the NBA ever gets back to what it had been always pre-KD joining Golden State, then a Russ plus Paul George with the right lineup around you is the type of team that's contended. A top 5 guy, fringe in Russ's case, plus another all-star, that's the type of team that is typically contended for championships. So now, maybe you think that doesn't matter who's with Russ. Russ is just the type of player you can't win with. I can't say that. I think that we also can't assume that Russ is going to be the one superstar that doesn't improve at all. I don't think he's going to change how he plays, but how efficient he is. Could he become a slightly better three-point shooter? Sure, why not? Like LeBron became a better three-point shooter. Paul George became a better three-point shooter.
But LeBron was committed to doing just that. Paul George committed to shooting open shots, contested shots better. What is Russ going to be committed to?
Yeah, and I would make the argument that Russell Westbrook, as great as he is, he hasn't changed his game at all. And he's a great player. I mean, he's a great player. But his game has not changed. It's downhill. It's get to the cup. It's aggressive. And that works for him. But it doesn't like Paul George statistically did not have a great year last year. His numbers were down a little bit. You know, Steven Adams, he's making $25 million a year, something like that. So they don't really have the roster flexibility to get a lot better. They re-up with Jeremy Grant, $27 million. But bottom line is, you're betting on Paul George and Russell Westbrook being able to maybe recruit one more free agent long term. But those are your two guys, and I don't know if they can win.
So let me ask you about that. Is it going to be about them recruiting? Like, I'm very curious what you said before. Tell me how Sam Presti laid out this incredible sort of platform whereby Paul George wanted to stay there and not go home, where he said he wanted to play, in the town where he grew up.
Or even go to Philly, which could compete right
whatever
now.
It was. Tell me what Sam Presti did when you said he made this a culture where you wanted to stay and play, because that's the way you're going to bring other guys in.
Well, it's player to,
Yeah, he didn't change it when Paul got there and say, you know something, guy, we're going to do bam, bam, bam. No, he said what we do on a daily basis. When he gets here, he's going to figure out, you know something? How the team flies, the type of meal options that they have, the type of hotels that they stay in, the culture in that city, that fan base, those things which he thought, you know something, it's just like this show. He's never been here, but man, we believe we're better than the other shows. And you know when he's going to see that? When Jordan gets here, because we're going to win him over by the way we attack the subjects and go about things on a daily basis. I believe that to be the same thing that OKC was doing for Paul George.
Yeah, and also the player development, I think they feel like...
I develop good players. Yeah. She's better now with her left. This dude right here.
I'm better now, Jordan, than I was 10 minutes ago. Go on.
Absolutely. No. Well, and they also believe that Andre Roberson's going to play a big role when he comes back. I think that's a big thing for them. But like Cece said, it's about getting you in the building, selling you every day on your culture, and understanding that we're better than other teams in the sense of how we handle our own.
And just one quick note for the audience. I just want people to understand what luxury tax is. It is billionaires paying other billionaires. Do you know where the luxury tax payment goes? To the teams that don't pay the tax. So no fan should ever care about their team being in the luxury tax. You should care about cap flexibility, things like this. But no fan should ever actually care, oh, man, my Clay Bennett.
Fans should never think that there is not some repercussion to just going out and acquiring other salaries. When you mention a number like Jenna mentions, and we live in New York City, they live in Oklahoma, bro. And you mentioned $300 million. We need to explain to the fans what is really going on.
Sure, it's a record. It breaks
the first $500 million team in terms of payroll and tax.
Right, and no doubt about it. The point that I'm making is like the owner, he signed up for it. He got a bargain on buying the team, and he still to this day realizes, man, I chose to be cheap on $4.5 million to keep James Harden. My team's never been the ripple effect of that, and so now he's paying the price for it.
You know what? To me, that's the most fascinating part of this whole thing. They went cheap on James Harden, and now they've gone completely in the other direction to say, we're going all in, baby. And you know, it's fascinating.
How did we do? How's our culture here?
A+. But I was talking to CC. I want to get in this hoop league.
Oh,
yeah.
I heard from Nick he's got a nice little thing going.
Yeah.
You got to send him a resume clip.
I got some.
And then a check. But then you're good to go. We're going to see you, Jordan, coming up.
We'll give you a one day.
All right, a one day, yeah.
A little bit later on the show. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.